Okay, I'm just activating the live stream on YouTube. Okay, lovely. Yes. Okay. So, just a second. Okay. So in theory, everything should work. Okay. I just closed the window, if you don't mind. Good. So a big welcome to everyone. Is everybody ready? Some objections to start? No? If not, then I would like to welcome everyone here in our virtual world room. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Breinbauer, and I'm the founder of SILKROAD 4.0. And I would like to welcome you to this evening where we focus about the digital Silk Road meets transport and logistics with the focus on rail. So we have a selection of outstanding experts today here assembled. And I would like to show you a couple of slides to explore a little bit about where SILKROAD 4.0 is coming from. I just look if it's on full screen. Yes, it's on full screen. So a couple of slides just quickly to go through what is actually SILKROAD 4.0, because I'm here in Bernhard Container Center. I was asked actually what is the purpose of SILKROAD 4.0, and I want to tell you a little bit about the history, the past of SILKROAD 4.0. So essentially, it started in 2016. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an engineer by trade, so to say, and I had this question mark: what happens if you take modern technology and leave your own comfort zone? So I equipped a high-tech motorcycle. Actually, it was a low-tech motorcycle in 2016, and equipped it with some high-tech components. Here you can see the technology partner that I had, and we were equipping this old sidecar, 25 years old, and I was traveling around for 2 months all across Europe to see what happens if you take IoT devices to an unusual area. And then people said, well, Philip, you're still in your own ecosystem. You're still in the area where you know how it works. And so there was a follow-up project, and that was in 2018. I equipped a modern motorcycle with additional IoT components. And then I traveled all the way the Silk Road from Austria to China and back to explore what happens if you use these technologies. And one thing that you realize quickly, if you deal with technology is an enabler. So it's not a purpose on itself, but technology only does what you tell it to do. And along the route, I was honored to meet amazing people, technology experts, but also non-technology experts. And what I did, I tried to connect people. And back then, in last year, in September last year, we decided to go on another route. And all the people who wanted to join our learning journey, we wanted to hit the road. But as you know, 2020 was probably not the best timing for starting around the world trip. So we started actually initially in a virtual environment, in a 3D environment to meet. So what is the purpose of SILKROAD 4.0? It's actually a connectivity platform. We try to connect people and technologies, and that across nations. And we try to find different people with different specialties and knowledge. And the way we do it, we organize events along our route. Here you can see the route that we have in planning. It's this currently location that I'm here at. You can see here in the background. I'll move it a bit. It's Budapest, so we'll have a mobility and transport focus, but there will be other events where we focus on other dimensions of the Belt and Road Initiative. But I think this topic also Andreas Breinbauer will slowly touch. So the last event was in Zagreb, and today I came to Budapest, as I said. And I want to quickly introduce you to the moderators of tonight. One is Professor Donald Lewis, who is currently located in California, in the United States. And Don, I always forget, I think it's 12 years or 15 years when you lived in Hong Kong. So he's a China expert. He's fluent in Mandarin, written and speaking. So he knows what he's talking about. He was teaching at Stanford. Currently, he's teaching at the University of San Francisco. And the other moderator is Dr. Harvey Sodin. He was a former presidential advisor to Jimmy Carter. He was former vice president of ABC Television. Normally, he lives in Beijing, but just it happens that right now he lives in Vienna, close by, more or less. And it's amazing. We have a great lineup of speakers. It's an honor to have you all here with us. Unfortunately, I have to announce two changes. One is my dear friend Peter Kovac. He's the co-founder of the Global Startup Awards. He had to cancel his attendance on very short notice because of some urgent matters. Peter Kovac I really enjoy him as a friend. He is, with his Global Startup Awards, one of the leading startup organizations. I think they have 36,000 startups in their portfolio. And he's an amazing guy. It's really pity that we are not able to welcome him. And the other person is Mario Holzner. He sent us a video with his presentation. And I'm not sure if he is able to join via phone, but he's actually currently on vacation, but that's not the issue. The problem is more the mobile network coverage in Croatia, where he's currently located. So I'm not sure if he is in, but I'm very happy to have all the other speakers here with us. And I would like to say a big thank you for one to Peter Kovac, our co-hosts from the Global Startup Awards, but also then for Arne Gobert. He's a managing director of DialogUngarn and the president of the German Business Club. And I would like to welcome him to speak a couple of words from Berlin, where he's currently located. Arne, thank you so much for your support.
Yes, thank you. Hello, and thank you for the invitation. Welcome to Budapest. I would like to say that from Budapest, because usually I'm based there for more than 25 years. But as you have said, I'm in Berlin on a business trip. I can add a few words to the topic, or maybe first about myself. So I'm a business attorney. I'm running my own tax and legal firm, and I'm for more than 20 years the legal advisor of the Lufthansa Group in Hungary, and that of course includes also cargo. I'm the president of the German Business Club for more than 8 years, and we have created a non-profit organization together with the Hungarian state, which is called DialogUngarn, and we try to talk about German Hungarian business topics in that format. And I'm also the local representative of the BWA, which is a foreign trade organization based in Berlin. So for the topic, I think Hungary as a logistic and cargo hub is a very important topic for the country, for north, south, and east, west, both directions. We, in my opinion, will see, and you know, of course, about it, we will see some major developments coming up. One is, of course, the railway construction, Belgrade-Budapest, which perfectly fits to this topic. And the other one is also a very important development in Trieste, in Italy, where the Hungarian state has acquired a piece of land, a significant piece of land, and there will be a harbor construction. And of course, we have a big part at the Ferryhead Airport in Budapest, which is also logistic. And with all the large automotive industry, which we have based in Hungary. BMW coming up next, following the other German and international companies. I think logistics is really a hot topic. Many years ago, we had, from the legal point of view, a hot topic because there was a law implemented called EKR, which is transport related law to control the logistics going in and out of the country. The background of that law was a large amount of supposed and actually, in fact, VAT fraud with regards to food transports. It was a big deal years ago because all the industries were affected by that law, and it was not so easy to implement it. But I have to say, together with the German Chamber of Commerce and also us, the German Business Club and the Hungarian government, and many of our members, I think we have found a very good solution. And I have to say, the government was very flexible to discuss it with us and of course with the companies in Hungary. So again, welcome to Budapest, and I hope this will be a fruitful meeting. And I try to be as long as possible online because in Berlin I'm not on vacation, so I have to attend some other meetings and go for dinner. But I wish you a good evening. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Arne. So I would like to thank also in particular our local host here. Maybe if you want to come here. So as you can see here, this is actually the terminal that I'm currently located at. Please take a seat, please. And I would like to welcome Sultan Fabian and Istvan Hajdu. Sorry for that. And because we're using their location here to live stream, and they can tell a little bit about the environment and also the strategic location of this terminal here.
With my pleasure, but do not afraid, it's only a picture. The terminal is a little bit bigger than this one. But anyhow, I would like to welcome all the guests and participants on this beautiful event, that I would like to catch the opportunity to say a special thanks to Philip, and that we have the chance to be a host for this beautiful event and conference. I'm really glad that we can welcome this conference, and I hope that in the near future we will have a chance also to organize a real conference. I'm 100% sure that the time will come, but anyhow, I'm pretty glad also that by virtual meeting we can also welcome your conference here on our terminal. And in the following few minutes, I would like to just highlight that the importance of the Silk Road, the importance of the main topic of this conference. As you know, Hungary makes much effort to more and more get into this One Belt One Road business. In the previous speaker, Mr. Kovács already mentioned about the investment for Budapest-Belgrade railway link, and also the development in Trieste. I would like to add some new information also, that Hungary, I think the Hungarian intermodal market already realized the possibilities and the importance of this One Belt One Road traffic, and therefore many private businesses and private companies are intended to get into these businesses. We can say that many companies are built up intermodal hubs, intermodal terminals, either in Budapest area or in Záhony, which is the eastern part of Hungary, and through Záhony we can connect the White Gauge railway to Ukraine, Russia, and to the One Belt One Road system. Our terminal, as a neutral player on the market, it's for us it's also very important. The Silk Road traffic. I can say that more and more clients choose our terminal to handle their business going through the Silk Road business, Silk Road way. But to say frankly, I don't want to waste your time and speak much about this kind of traffic. I rather would like to transfer the speech to my colleague, who is the expert in One Belt One Road traffic, and he's the commercial director of also the terminal. So I would like to ask István to little bit speak about One Belt One Road traffic and the importance of this Silk Road traffic.
I try to
Thank you so much.
I try to do it. Thanks for the words. And I first of all, I would like also welcome all of the participants and the audience all over the world by the social media. Yes, regarding this One Belt One Road project, MCC, so Mahar Container Center briefly, since 2017 is an integrated part, integral part of this business. For example, the first export train in 2017 was launched from MCC back to Xi'an via the Polish Malasiewicz terminal. So it's around 4 years that we are integrated partner and part of this project. On the other side, as Zoltán mentioned, we have lots of contacted parties and lots of customers, mainly Chinese containers owners, who use our terminal to store mainly their empty containers. And currently, as the only Intermodal terminal in Hungary, we
Maybe a little bit closer to the
yes.
Okay.
We get the chance to move these empty containers by barge via Danube back to the hinterland region in South Germany and Austria also, because now we are living in a changing world, and the empty evacuation cost of the container in the last 3-4 years over, for example, 500 euro per TEU was impossible. But currently, lots of high value cargo, mainly the automotive sector and the chemical industry, is able or are able to pay this cost. And now this imbalance traffic, so the import traffic, changed with outbound export cargo also back to the Far East. So yes, we are living in a changing world, as mentioned, like COVID, and everything is changing in the background, like the maritime industry also, because currently the shipping lines uses really high ocean freight rates, and now this Chinese rail project should be an alternative transportation mode in front of the maritime and shipping line containers. Last week, I got a rate schedule from I don't know from which partner, but it contains around $10,000, approximately $10,000 rail freight rate from, for example, I guess from Xi'an to Budapest. And now, if I know well, the current port-to-port CY rate, for example, Shanghai Budapest CY rate is around $16,000, $17,000, depends on the shipping line. So now it's an alternative in front of the maritime business. Yeah, but naturally, is everything. This One Belt One Road project has got lots of advantages and disadvantages. Which are the advantages? For example, as I mentioned to you, I mentioned Xi'an, but there are some big megacities from China from the inland provinces like Xi'an, Chengdu, Changsha, who are able to connect into the global economic and global economic flow, and that's why this One Belt One Road project, which are too far from the south southeast part of China, main hubs or main container ports like Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing, Xinjiang, etc. Now, as I mentioned, it's a cheaper, or why so cheaper solution than the maritime business. On the other side, the shipping lines now playing a crucial game, because as I mentioned, the shipping rates are high, but sometimes they are not able to provide for the customers the empty containers. So it's a tricky game, but it's the world. So shall we see what will happen in the future? Now, on the other side, as I mentioned, there are disadvantages also, and mainly disadvantages the heavy capacity and traffic congestions on this route, and mainly in Maleševice hub. Maleševice port is a little bit, not a little bit, but it's a really congested rail hub now. And as Zoltán mentioned, mainly Fényes-Tükke terminal, the East-West Gate terminal, could be a good alternative or option to light on this traffic and enforce this Far East traffic, not via Maleševice, but via Hungary to all over Europe.
Yes, and so excuse me if you don't mind, I would like to put some words to István's speech that we are hearing always that Hungary has to be well prepared for the Chinese cargoes through the One Road way to the Silk Road. And I have to say that while I see the bottlenecks on the Silk Road, then I see also that all the Hungarian terminals have the opportunity to develop their capacity with a big percentage. I mean, with a two-digit percent. And if I see our experiences that in the past 3 years we could develop our capacity by 25%, and we will develop our capacity by 50% in the next 2 years. And István also mentioned the East-West Gate terminal, which will be one of the biggest intermodal terminal in the Eastern European side. I think we can ensure that in case of developing Silk Road traffic, Hungary will have a very good option to have a hub of this traffic. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting us again. It's a great pleasure to be here. And it was a perfect introduction, because this is actually what Don is now going to continue to speak about, the global picture, so to say. Don, can you share your presentation? Don?
Yes, I am just coming on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because okay, thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming us here. So we're just moving back, so you can see a little more of the terminal, this beautiful terminal that I'm currently located in. And because Don also prepared a couple of slides that also mention those topics that István and Zoltán just spoke about. Don, I see the preview of your slides. Just
right, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Lovely.
So yes, thank you very much, Philippe, and I trust this will my very brief intervention here an introduction will follow on from what we've just heard from the gentleman from the Mahat Container Center. First, I wanted to note, given the topic for our discussions tonight is on rail transport along the Silk Roads, and of course that therefore implicates EDAILU, or China's Belt and Road Initiative, that there are two parts to the Belt and Road Initiative, as I'm sure most or many of you know, and that is the Silk Road Economic Belt and the Maritime Silk Road. Really the Silk Road Economic Belt has as its core feature rail infrastructure and connectivity, which is really at the heart of BRI. Originally, the Silk Road Economic Belt consisted of 6 land rail corridors, and I've listed them here on this slide. I don't think you need to go through them in the interest of time, but I would at least note the first one, which is the new Eurasian land bridge, which is also known as the Iron Silk Road, connecting as really the primary artery China and Europe. And then we have the others as well that also in some respects come across to Europe. Now, what I wanted to stress here, this is actually a slide from the Baltic Transport Journal, and you can, and I should also acknowledge the great work of Presmik Mishka, the editor of the Baltic Transport Journal, in putting together this slide. Or this map, which shows the proliferation, the enormous expansion of BRI rail corridors across Eurasia in really less than a decade. It is truly unprecedented in terms of what China has done, what the China Railway Corporation and indeed others have done to create this infrastructure. It should be noted that the original Iron Silk Road, completed in 2011 with its European terminus in Duisburg, Germany, has expanded into what is now called, at least from the Chinese side, as called the China Railway Express, with multiple related corridors, including the Western Corridor, the Northern Corridor, and the Middle Corridor. Again, with this map, the Baltic Transport Journal has identified some 19 corridors now as distinguished from the original 6. And you can see these on the map. The most prominent one being, of course, the original China Euro Land Express cutting across to Germany. I now want to just say a very few words about certain key intergovernmental and railway organizations in Europe that are central to the regulation of intercontinental rail transport, including, of course, transport between the EU and China. Now, as we can see, they include, among others, CIT, the International Rail Transport Committee, and OTIF. You can see that down the OTIF transport law, both of these based in Switzerland, and JD based in Warsaw. Now, these organizations have developed and aim to harmonize different Eurasian legal regimes and technical standards. Now, what we do need to bear in mind is that there are actually different legal systems regulating carriage of goods by rail on the Eurasian landmass. I call this the Great Divide. The two legal systems are epitomized by two organizations, OTIF, the Intergovernmental Organization for International Carriage by Rail, and OSJD, the Organization for Cooperation of Railways. Many BRI countries have acceded to COTIF, to the overarching convention, the COTIF Convention, and are OTIF members. This is also true for many EU states. However, a large number of BRI socialist or former socialist countries, including China, and I have to point out Hungary, are OSJD members. Now, it should be appreciated that rail carriage by OTIF members is governed by the CIM legal rules, and the carriage by OSJD members is governed by the SMGS agreement of 2015. This organizational and legal dichotomy gives rise to various complications, including the need for transshipment of goods when transiting from an OSJD to an OTIF state, owing to different rail gauges. That is, from broad gauge rail wagons to standard gauge wagons. Another complication is reconsignment and data transfer from CMGS to CIM, or SMGS to CIM rail consignment notes, bearing in mind that these consignment notes do constitute the contract of rail carriage. Now, as far as reconsignment is concerned, this complication has now been overcome by the creation of the CIM SMGS consignment note, which allows for legal interoperability, between the two systems and the two sets of rules when crossing an OTIF OSJD JD frontier interface. And since 2000, assignment note has also been available. However, there has been no substantive harmonization of these legal regimes, and a unified international railway law remains a distinct goal. Notwithstanding, of course, efforts by the European Commission and DG Move and a range of organizations, including UNECE in Europe. So thank you for allowing me to make that introduction and intervention. Now, I would also now like to move on and put on my moderator hat and introduce our first keynote speaker, and that is Professor Dr. Andreas Breinbauer, Director of the FH program on logistics and transport management, and Rector FH of the University of Applied Sciences, BFI Vienna. Professor Breinbauer's topic, a fascinating one, and it's a fascinating presentation, is the BRI and Europe, a holistic view, how to create a win-win situation. Andreas, the floor is yours.
Andreas, do you want me to show the presentation, or are you going to try it with your presentation? Maybe we lost Andreas.
Excuse me, the last 10 minutes I was offline. Sorry, I have a.
It seems that the connection of Andreas is.
Connections, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What about this? Can you turn off your video?
10 minutes offline. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi is very unstable. But can we start? Maybe we can try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this, Andreas? You turn off your video, so we just listen to your audio, and I will show your presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Fine. Thank you. Thank you for the kind invitation. I want to talk about the Belt and Road in Europe and in a holistic view, how to create a win-win situation. Next, please. I want to talk about the BRI. I want to give a short and brief definition about the trade volumes about the transport mode, about the Iron Silk Road, about the traffic there, and about EU-China transport strategies, and about lessons that we can learn from China and also from the EU. Next, please. The Belt and Road Initiative, in my opinion, is a China-led connectivity project of central relevance in the 14th five-year span. It's mentioned 4 times there. It's thematically open, timely not limited. It's regionally unrestricted. It's an invitation to all countries and organizations. And there are hardly any official maps with all the projects. Most are designed by Western think tanks. And in my opinion, it's a work in progress, accompanied financially, politically, and diplomatically, and based on 5 pillars, which I will outline. And by definitions, an initiative and not a strategy. It is in the Chinese opinion, not a Marshall Plan, a new Marshall Plan. So it should create a win-win situation with those countries who are committed to the Belt and Road initiatives. In 2021, it's about 150 countries. Next, please. Out of 5 pillars of the Belt and Road Initiative, these are the main cooperation fields. It's about political cooperation, it's about trade and investment, it's about financing and a financial system, people-to-people contact, and since 2019, industrial cooperation. So connectivity in infrastructure is one pillar, and railway connection is a sub-pillar of the Belt and Road Initiative. Next, please. The infrastructure side of the Belt and Road Initiative is prominent because it's the visible part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Here you see 2 maps. The left with the railway network we are going to outline and also in the discussion. And on the right side, you see more infrastructure projects designed by Stefan Barisis from Austria, who also had other projects than infrastructure, mobile infrastructure project designed there. Next, please. Most of the project of infrastructure projects are located in Southeast Asia and in Pakistan, where about 50% of the projects have been completed. These are the green dots. And the focus region in Europe is Southeastern Europe, where most of the projects are incomplete and under construction. Next, please. We are talking about China and EU transport connection, transport cooperation. China is, of course, the winner of the COVID crisis, and you can see the green fields there that mean that China came into growth since the 3rd quarter 2020, and with 3% in import, 8% in export, and the growth increased on the export side to 70% in the 4th quarter of 2020, and also in the 1st quarter 2021, we had 70% growth in export. China is the only region who had the GDP growth in 2020 and will have a really good growth in 2021. The World Bank estimates a growth rate about 88%. And the EU and China are trade partners. The EU for China to trade partner number 1, and China for the EU number 2. So we see the very close connections concerning the trade connection. The import and export ratio between China and the EU is imbalanced with about 200 billion euro. It is more imported from EU and more exported from China. Next, please. When we have a look at the modal split, China in the EU 27, till 2018, 90.8% have been transported by sea, 1 to 2% by air, and about 1% by rail. This has significantly changed in the past few years. I will outline next. Due to the turbulences of the sea freight, think of the Ever Given or the problems in Ningbo, the lack and the wrong position of empty containers, the lack of freight volume and capacities and air freight, the lack of the belly capacity, the prices for sea and air freight exploded. In the end of August 2021, 40 food container from Shanghai to Hamburg was very expensive, about 12 to 16,000 US dollar, which is the absolutely highest level ever. Considered that the minimum level during the crisis 2008, the same 40 food container only had costed 150 US dollar. So rail transport is a good and sustainable alternative, and the model split between China and Europe has changed. Now we have 95% on sea, 3 to 4% by rail, and 1 to 2% air. Next, please. What is really outstanding is that 90% of the imports from Far East to Europe are transported by the container, and also 70% of the export to Far East. And the lane between Far East and Europe is the second most important behind the Trans-Pacific line, when every week will be transported about 400,020 food container. The total volume export between Europe and Far East in 2020 was about 9 million, and Far East Europe about 50 million. So the ratio between export and import is about 2 to 1. And this unpaired transport is due to the imbalanced trade volumes. The next slide, please. So here's some slides about the recent development of the sea freight volumes. And you see that Far East, the lane Far East has much more export capacity than import volume. Next, please. In comparison to the sea freight prices, you see that from beginning mid of June 2020, and especially in November 2020, the sea freight prices rise up very tight to, one can say, they exploded. Next, please. Speaking about the Iron Silk Road, there has been strong growth in the past years. Iron Silk Road means railway connection between China and Europe. And here on the left side, some figures. In the first half 2021, about 7,000 trains left China to Europe, and this is concerning the EUs, about 64% more than 2019. And these goods represent 5.5% of the total value trade between China and Europe. Along in 2020, 24 new eastbound and 40 new westbound routes have been launched, and also 18 new arriving points in Europe. The main Chinese hubs are Xi'an, Chengdu, and Chongqing, and the main hub in Europe for rail transport is Duisburg, but also Budapest is uprising. The first train from Xi'an, for example, arrived at the 1st of July. The most important goods transported by rail are electronics, mechanical engineering products, and automotive parts. These three commodities took 40% of all transported goods. 3 years ago, this share was 80%. This is due to the fact that low-price goods have joined the train since the exorbitant high prices for sea transport have arrived. Next, please. Now, again, in overview, the first trains left China to Europe in 2011. There were only a dozen, and now we have about 12,000 trains leaving from China to Europe in 2020. Please. The main routes, I think, Bernhard will go into further details. We have a northern route, Trans-Siberian Railway, middle and the southern corridor, and I think Bernhard will outline them in detail. Please. And last but not least, I want to talk about the Chinese and EU transport strategies, and the latest, the most important Chinese document is the National Comprehensive Three-Dimensional Transportation Network Planning Outline. It was issued in February 2021. It's a strategic top-level policy paper, and the aim is to integrate a fully transport system up to 2035, and it should transform the relatively isolated and speed-centered transport system towards an integrated, innovative, smart, and intelligent quality and efficient-centered world-class transport model. And in the end of 2035, the high-speed railway network should be about 70,000 kilometers. Thank you. Next. There should be established international railway hubs like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Chongqing, Chengdu, and Xi'an. And from 7 international transport channels, the new Asia-Europe continental bridge should be focused, and they verbally have written in the paper, taking China-Europe block trains as a focus, develop the international block trains and promote the facilitation of international road transport. And of course, there's also connection to One Belt, One Road. Yes, please. Here you see a map with the main skeleton of the National Comprehensive Three-Dimensional Transportation Network with 6 axes in red, 7 corridors in blue, and 8 channels in orange, which will connect 4 poles, 8 clusters, and 9 groups. Next, please. One agreement, and the comprehensive agreement on investment, also deals with transport. It could also investment in the European-China corridor, and there's place for mutual investments from EU and China companies in freight operators, and the EU rail companies will be able to contribute to the work of standardization committees. But in this CAI, there are no concrete measures concerning rail transport. Next, please. The EU has concerns to BRI involvement. The EU concerns are, for example, the increasing interest of China to be involved in the construction of critical infrastructures, such as ports, rails, and road links with hinterland, where there is no real reciprocity. At the moment, Chinese holdings control 10% of the European terminal capacity in Europe. For instance, Valencia, Bilbao, Zeebrugge, Vado, and of course, Piraeus. And EU officials claim that lack of transparency as the problem number 1 for EU companies in engagement of the BRI-related project. Next, please. The most important document of the EU to transport policies is the Globally Connected Europe. It was issued by the Council on July 2021. Here, it stated that the connectivity agenda is an important part of the European Green Deal. It should be sustainable, comprehensive, and rule-based with connectivity partnerships and financial instruments. And it's not well known that the EU funds in infrastructure projects between 2013 and 2018 are about 414 billion US dollar and nearly at the level of the China-related project concerning the BRI. So the Belt and Road Initiative is well known worldwide, but I think that when we ask common people about the infrastructure projects and funding of the EU, there it's not widely known. Next, please. Another platform is the EU China Connectivity Platform since 2015, and this is a discussion forum to explore opportunities for further cooperation in the area of transport with a view to enhance synergies between the EU's approach to connectivity, especially the 10 corridors and the Belt and Road Initiative. And the platform is also used to work together in the way that the project should be transparent, have more reciprocity in the market access and a level playing field for business in the area of transport and infrastructure. I've looked at the homepage of the platform. Since 2019, there are not relevant activities. What we have also to discuss, in my opinion, about supply chain, there are worldwide strategies and plans to deglobalize the trade and cooperation, economic cooperation. We have FDI screenings in most of the countries in the world. The EU had issued an FDI screening. It is mentioned that the EU should get strategic autonomous, and very important for supply chain managers is the due diligence and the Supply Chain Act and some other strategies. Now I come to the end. Yes, Philip, I will come to the end. I want to summarize and give an outlook. Logistics service providers are among the profiteers of the global trade in China as well as in Europe. In principle, strategically, there are many opportunities for cooperation in the field of transport between Europe and China, for instance, Green Deal, Green Belt and Road Initiative, but the plans issued by the EU and China are still very domestically oriented. At both political and corporate level, there are numerous plans to shorten and regionalize the supply chains. We can also affect transport between EU and China, on consequently also logistics service providers. And to create stable and sustainable supply chains is a necessity and can create a win-win situation between Chinese and European partners. And concrete benchmark projects between China and the EU are still rare. Sustainable supply chain, green logistics, and digital logistics could be important topics to find concrete examples of implementation. Now, my last slide. What can the Chinese side learn from the European and vice versa? From the Europeans, the Chinese can learn in the field of sustainability. The EU countries and the EU enterprises are absolute front runners, especially in the field of the implementation of SDGs. And I think that their role model in transparency, reciprocity, and multilateral approach to projects. And from the Chinese side, you can learn a lot. Europeans can learn a lot the field of the development of long-term plans, super planning. You can ask Emanuela Hannes, she's the expert on this. And above all, the implementation that China is the most successful since many years. For instance, the high-speed railway network. And also very successful in the agile adaptation of the plant, in the sense of agile management. So thank you very much, and sorry for the overtime.
Thank you, Andreas. I think we are quite delayed slightly. Don, do you want to say something, or shall we directly move on to Mario's video?
I did want to, yeah, no, I think we should just move directly on to Mario's video. And in that regard, perhaps just to say that we do have, as our next keynote speaker, Dr. Mario Holzner, Executive Director at the Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies, who is also the founding father of the European Silk Road. As Dr. Holzner cannot be with us this evening, as Philippe has mentioned, we have his video recording, which is appropriately entitled The European Silk Road. So if you would like to now play that, Philippe.
Okay, I just started. Does it work? Can you hear? Can you hear the audio and the video?
I can't hear the audio, no.
No.
You cannot hear the.
I can see the video, but the audio is not.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was interesting because when I tried it before. Here we go. So sorry for that. Now it should work.
All a very warm welcome to
Yes.
my presentation of
Now it
our
works.
suggestion of a European Silk Road. The starting point was basically the analysis that there are still large income disparities across the European continent. We see here a map with the GDP per capita at purchasing power parities, and roughly speaking, the west of the continent has about double the income of the east. And what can be done in this respect, and infrastructure investment are often mentioned as one way to basically bring closer the less developed parts to those centers of industrial development, of growth, of technology, of capital in the West. And fairly correlated is infrastructure quality. We see here motorway density, and again high densities in the West, hardly any modern transport infrastructure in the east of the continent. Causality probably runs in both ways, but there are good reasons to believe that constructing infrastructure can help countries to develop. The European Union is supporting this, particularly within the EU, but also, for instance, in the Western Balkans and also partly in the Eastern neighborhood countries. But it's a slow expansion of the so-called TEN-T networks since the 1990s. Basically a small section here, a small section there. It's more or less piecemeal. By contrast, there is a global infrastructure initiative run by China, the Belt and Road Initiative, New Silk Road. While this is also a number of smaller projects, overall, at least from a propagandistic point of view, China was able to show that it actually cares about global economic development and that it wants to connect to the most developed parts of the world. So I think we can learn something from this initiative. And hence we suggested a European Silk Road not necessarily against China, but could be also interpreted as being complementary. It foresees on two routes, a northern and the southern one, with extensions, for instance, in the north from Lisbon via Lyon, Moscow, all the way to the Kazakh border in the north, in the south from the industrial centers in northern Italy, southern Germany, through the Danube Valley and via sea links, Black Sea, all the way with extensions to southern Russia and southern Caucasus, connecting also to the Black Sea and Caspian area, which harbors a lot of population and less developed regions. It would be a combination of modern e-mobility highways and particularly high-speed railway lines and string of ports and logistics centers. And by land, it would have around 11,000 kilometers. A huge market potential could be connected. About 500 million in the west, with 500 million people in the east, which, however, have only half of the EU's income level. We estimated in a very conservative way the project costs and came up with a figure of around 1,000 billion euros, 1 trillion euros, which is on the one hand a lot of money. On the other hand, it is well, 7%, about 7% of the EU GDP, and invested over longer periods of time, 10, 20 years, on an annual basis. This is not a lot of money for Europe. We calculated the effects of construction measures and came up with a figure of an accumulated average growth rate of 3.5%. Obviously much higher growth rates to be expected in the poor countries, much lower in the rich countries, and employment effects of about 2 million in jobs. However, one has to say this is very conservative estimates, much likely to be somewhere around 7 million jobs. Time savings, again, very conservative estimates of around 8%, for instance, in road transport in the core route in the north, would have significant trade effects of up to 11% higher exports, for instance, to Russia. Additional potential, I think, is maybe even more important apart from the long-run industrial development. It would offer the possibility of common infrastructure standards, for instance, in e-mobility, more political, personal and cultural cooperation in a larger Europe, and finally a new narrative for the continent, which one probably has to say has lost in a way a common narrative, the one that was established after the end of the Second World War. Many generations have no remembrance of those times anymore, so we need a new mission, something that a common goal basically, and this could be a part of the story. I won't go into the details of financial and operational architecture that we suggested, just a few words. We have here this figure. We thought of having a European Sovereign Wealth Fund supported by the European Central Bank, for instance, via their profits, and that could be a main guarantor for a European Silk Road Trust that issues bonds and that constructs and operates the European Silk Road that, as I mentioned before, would entail about 11,000 kilometers in e-highways and high-speed rail, and would cost about 1 trillion euros. Maybe just a few more informations on this. The European Silk Road Trust could be an extra budgetary financing of infrastructure and its operation, because the majority of income would be generated from the private sector, and hence statistically would go through as a private entity. So it would not be something that increases public debt, which is important for countries like Germany, for instance, Netherlands, Austria, the frugal countries also. The mentioned European Sovereign Wealth Fund could be the strong guarantor for bonds that the European Silk Road Trust would issue, and here, for instance, the structure of the Norwegian Oil Fund could be thought of, and we have made calculations where if assets are being invested in a different way, this wealth fund could grow to about 3% of the euro area's GDP. Alternative, smaller wealth fund of less than 1% of GDP could be sourced out of ECB profits. But there are obviously also other options of financing, for instance, via existing bodies like the European Fund for Strategic Investment, increasing capital of the European Investment Bank, and similar. What happened with our suggestion? We had quite a big presentation in Brussels. Also, people from the Commission were attending, from the European External Action Service, colleagues from our sister institute, Bruegel. And interestingly, a week later, the Financial Times published an editorial in support of our suggestion. So we were very happy with that. In 2020, the European Silk Road proposal was also part of a German, French, Austrian proposal for an alternative EU recovery fund. Again, also a lot of media response on that. And we had a lot of further activities and quite a bit more of media response. Again, in the Financial Times, very nice essay by Simon Cooper, but also in quality media in Germany, for instance, in Austria, in France, in the internet. Some of our tweets went viral. Colleagues from the Franco-German Parliamentary Assembly we were in contact with, and most recently this year, students from the School of Public Policy from the Central European University we were cooperating with have been writing papers together with us. One of them, for instance, measuring what would be the effects on CO2 emissions if we would build, for instance, the high-speed railway line on our northern route. So a lot of interesting things going on, and I would like to stop here, and I would like to thank you for your attention. You can follow us on a specific website we have here for this proposal, but also on our standard website and social media outlets. So thank you very much again for your attention.
So that was the video. Go ahead, Don, please.
No, excellent video and very interesting propositions from Maria Holzner, and plenty of food for thought, and it'll be interesting to see how the European Silk Road develops from the European side rather than just the Chinese side, and how that perhaps will dovetail with the G7's B3W initiative. But I think at this point we really should move on, and I'd like to introduce our final keynote speaker, Mr. Bernhard Ebner, member of the management board and head of the business unit of the Intermodal Rail Group. The title of his speech this evening is The Eurasian Railway Corridor. It's our great pleasure to have you with us tonight, Bernhard. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Don, for the first words and the invitation. Philip, thank you for this as well. I'm really happy to be part in this discussion, especially based in Hungary, as hopefully everybody knows. Hungary is one of our home markets, and especially at the terminal in Mahat. It's not ours in Hungary, but we have our Bilk terminal very close to it, yeah, and we are running mainly all our Eurasian business over this terminal. But we are guests more or less every day in Mahat with our trains coming from Italy, for example, and other destinations. So thank you to be part of it, and thank you to be in Hungary, and that's the terminal Mahat. Before I start, I wanna clarify one point that was mentioned from Andreas in his presentation. He has said that in 2021 the first direct train from Xi'an arrived to Budapest. Sorry, Andreas, to say it was much earlier. It was 2 years earlier and was a direct train. The first one we drove via the Ukraine. So it's not just a few weeks ago. It's more than 2 years ago when we did it. And from that time on, we are running these trains more or less frequently.
Thank you for the correction. I have read it at railfreight.com.
You're welcome. It's fine, and I will send you some pictures of this train. It was a very nice one. Yeah. I think we'll continue. We have heard now a lot of figures and seen figures and maps and all the things. Yes, we will get figures from my side as well and maps as well. But I want to speak as somebody who is working on this Iron Silk Road. Not only just on the Iron Silk Road, we are working on the sea-based Silk Road as well since many years. I will give you a short overview about our company, and I think I just continue. Hopefully you can see the presentation in full size.
Yeah, it's full size.
Perfect. So first of all, a lot of numbers in the first moment. Rail Cargo Group is part of the ÖBB Group, Austrian Federal Railway Company. Rail Cargo Group, we are a little bit more than 9,000 staff. We are running more than 500,000 trains a year. I will not talk about all these figures over there. I think it is just to give you an overview, and I think everybody can see it afterwards because we are sharing this presentation, of course. What we are doing, Rail Cargo Group, is we are rail freight forwarder, we are rail freight operator, we are running high frequency transfer connections. A little bit more about this later on, because it's our Eurasian business is very close and very much operated in the operator business. We're doing this rolling road where complete trucks can go on the train. It's used in Austria and Switzerland, crossing the Alps. We are railway carrier. That means we have own traction companies in 12 European countries. And of course, we have a lot of assets, wagon material and so on, and locomotives, of course. And maintenance is part of our group. This is just to give you a short overview about our group of companies. A few minutes before I said I'm happy to be in Hungary because it's our home market. Yes, we see Austria and Hungary as our home market. Here mentioned on the map in dark red. The lighter red, one area including the two countries, Hungary and Austria, is the area in Europe where we have our own traction companies, where we can do railway transports really on our own with our own locomotives. And we have, of course, sales companies in some additional countries. including Turkey, and on the bottom right side you can Russia. Of course, Russia is much bigger than on this slide, but it is just to mention it. When it comes to our Silk Road activities, I like this map because it shows very clear that this maritime Silk Road is for us business as usual since many years. Yeah, we are doing a lot of trains from all the important European ports to especially the Central Eastern European countries. Of course, Austria and Hungary in the center of this. This is nothing new. These connections from the European ports are business for us for really many years. What has been added some years ago is the connection down to Greece. I would say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, nobody was thinking about connecting Central Europe with China via the port of Piraeus, but there was a company who did it, and it is, at the end of the day, I have to say it, and a lot of people, including me, didn't really believe in it in the first moment, but it is a really success story, these trains, and we are happy to run these trains, especially most of them to our main hub in Budapest, the Bilk terminal, and other terminals in other countries as well. What you can see on this map as well is this Northern Silk Road and the Southern Silk Road, as we name it. The Southern Silk Road is also known as the Middle Corridor. What we did within the last few years, we developed, first of all, our intra-European intermodal network with a lot of connections. On this map, it's not a really brand new one. A lot of connections are not put on the map, but what is very important is that we were trying to connect all the main European areas. We are not active directly in Scandinavia, in the British Islands and France and Spain, but more or less all the other countries. We are running trains, or we are crossing these countries, of course. And I think I go to the next slide because there we can see it a little bit better. Our Eurasian activities here in red are the lines that we use on the broad gauge. Yeah, it is the main routing coming from all Asian connections via these mentioned border crossing to Russia, to Mongolia, to Kazakhstan. All of them are on the northern routing are crossing Russia, and of course the main gateway to Europe was and is still Malashevitz, with all the ups and downs we have there with congestions and all the other things. And what we did by creating our European network, we were always thinking in the last few years into that direction. What is needed to connect as much as possible border crossing to East and Far East. And today we can say that we are linking Europe and China with our Eurasian business, starting in the north from Kaliningrad, where we are running direct trains via Malashevitz, of course. And one of our favorite is the border crossing Záhony between Ukraine and Hungary, because it's next to our main gateway in Budapest. And the middle corridor that comes into not into Europe but into Turkey in Kars. And what we did within our European network, we developed a high frequency running system between Budapest, Carriage, and very soon we will start with Vienna directly down to Istanbul. Beginning it was a connection to the European part of Istanbul. Since some months we are running trains very frequently also to the Asian part of Istanbul. So that means we are crossing the Marmara via the new tunnel. And this is the connection that we provide for this middle corridor. This middle corridor is not just a corridor that is very important between China and Europe. This is also a corridor that is important for all the countries that are along this routing. So that means it is a really active and stimulating thing running this corridor. It's not easy, but we have already run some trains. We are not that frequently that we would like to be, but we are still working on it. And I think within a few months it will be a more or less frequently and stable connection that we are running. All the connections and all the cities in Europe and in China that you can see there are linked within our network. And the red part is the part where we link China with Europe. On the other hand, we are transporting more or less everything that has to be transported between Europe and China. You can see some symbols on the upper list, but I think this is good enough. We go in detail a little bit. I picked out one of the connections we are running. It's the connection from Ganzhou via the border crossing Dostik to Kazakhstan, crossing Russia, entering Sahony, entering Ukraine, and via the Sahon border crossing, we go directly to our terminal in Budapest. And what we are doing there is, it is a hub and a gateway. We learned before that a lot of business and a lot of Eurasian rail-linked business is running via Duisburg. And yes, that is an important hub. But within the last 2 years, we were really able to establish Budapest as a alternative with an alternative routing, with a routing that is not crossing Belarus and Poland. Ukraine is not easy, but it works. And we are linking with our network, and this is just a few destinations to give you a little bit an overview. We are linking from Germany via Austria. We are going very western part of Austria to link Switzerland as well. We are going down to Italy and Slovenia. And of course, we are linking Turkey via Istanbul as well. And on the route to Turkey, of course, the other countries as well. So this is one of our trains. We are running these trains frequently. Here you can see transit times from including the connections from Budapest to the final destination. Everything is, of course, the other way around as well. So that means we are running these trains not just on the westbound, we are running them on the eastbound as well. The first train via the Ukraine to Budapest, I mentioned before, where I corrected Andreas a little bit, was a train that started in Xi'an. This train arrived in Budapest exactly on day 10 after the departure. The difference of the time zones helped us a little bit. It was more than 11 days finally, but we arrived on day 10. For the moment, the situation is that we are not, and nobody is able to reach this number and this transit times. It is, I would say, right now, all the transport between Far East and Europe, I think we can say even worldwide, it's a little bit I would say we are in troubled waters. Yeah, not just on the seaside, on the land side as well. Air freight is not easy as well, so it's not that easy for the moment to arrange these transports. Andreas said before that price increases are really heavy and dramatic for all the importers of the goods. But what I have to say is there are troubles and problems on the railway connection between Far East and Europe. We can see it and we have to live with it. But if we compare it with all the other transport modes, I would say it's still one of the reliable one. Yeah, and yes, there is an increase of transit time, but at the end of the day, railway transport between Far East and Europe is reliable and stable, and for the moment easier to handle for our customers as all the other options, sea freight or air freight, for example. I switch to another slide, and I think it's more or less the last one. It's a very colorful one. I just want to speak a little bit about what are the issues, what are the deckers and limitations that we are facing more or less every day running these trains. It is competition. Yeah, it is not just competition between the rail operators between Asia and Europe. It's competition with sea freight and even air freight. But what we are doing to go some good step forwards is we are really doing competition. That means we are working together with other operators, with other railway undertakings, with terminals, not our own, others as well, together on productional side when it helps to make the service better. This is something that works very good and brings synergies and volumes and advantages at the end of the day to the customers. This is something we are doing. Infrastructural limitations. This is something we are facing more or less also every day. Yeah. Our clear idea to work on this is infrastructural limitations we will always have. Just some month ago we have seen this situation in Germany with this floodings and all of the other things. It can happen everywhere. So our target is clear, and a lot of these things we have already finalized and organized is to have various routings, to have additional and alternative border crossings. And even if there are some border crossings and some routings that we are using right now between Far East and Europe, we are still developing some additional ones. It is now, of course, very important for us, this crossing via Ukraine and Hungary, where we help and we avoid these congestions in Malashevitz and the other things. Kaliningrad is something that we are pushing in the moment very, very hard, because we think there is a lot of more potential using this crossing, especially when it comes to transports to Northern Europe. The third one is equipment shortage. Everywhere is equipment shortage. In the sea freight, I would say even more than in the land transport. We are working very hard on the optimization of the wagon usage. That means speeding up the return of wagons and including the container equipment. And there are other things like handover and border management. There is a big development has been achieved within the last 2 years, I would say, but we are still working on it to make it easier. There are some projects ongoing, and customs processing is very close to that. here we are working really, and we are part of some development groups in clarifying and bringing standardization and digitalization forward. This is, as we say it, the RCG way. So having some issues and on more than 10,000 kilometers of distance, you always have some decals and limitations anywhere. So you have to be prepared, and you have to put every day a new idea to work and live with these decals and limitations. And every day the target is to have it a little bit easier and better. This is a short overview about our business that we are doing on the we call it our Eurasian segment. I hope it was a good overview for you, and thank you again for being part of this presentation.
That was an excellent presentation, Bernhard, and thank you so much for that. So many developments that you know are occurring in the field in terms of the Iron Silk Road or the China Railway Express, and I mean, you are right there on the front lines. You understand what are the issues. What are the problems, and thank you for outlining those. And as I think you pointed out too, when you're in the intermodal transport business, co-opetition is very important, and you're working with so many different players or parties to these transactions, given that it does involve multiple modes of transportation, not just rail, but also sea, and of course, in some cases, air. But I wanted to move on at this point. Philip, did you want to wrap up in terms of at least the YouTube audience?
Yeah, thank you, Don. Thank you, Bernhard, for this really very interesting presentation. I really enjoyed it. It was extremely valuable and insightful. So I just want to say for all the participants in Zoom, of course, we'll provide the presentations. We'll also have access to to the recording, to the video here. Also, you can follow the panel discussion and the Q&A session that we will now continue to have. But I want to say thank you for those people from the YouTube channel who were joining us. I want to say goodbye to the YouTube colleagues, and I hope to see the colleagues from YouTube again at our next session coming up in 23rd of September. We'll travel to Bucharest, but now a goodbye to YouTube and just stopping